I never imagined a simple hike could turn into a nightmare that would haunt me forever. It all started innocently enough. My friends and I decided to spend the weekend hiking through the dense forest trails that surrounded our town. The lush greenery and the promise of adventure beckoned us, but little did we know what awaited us in the depths of those woods. As dusk began to settle in, we found ourselves deep into the heart of the forest, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to each other in the breeze. The air grew colder, and a sense of unease crept over us, but we brushed it off as mere nerves. Nightfall descended upon us like a thick blanket, shrouding the forest in darkness. We huddled together, our flashlights cutting through the blackness as we pressed onward. That's when we heard it, a faint, eerie sound that sent shivers down our spines. It was like the mournful wail of a lost soul, echoing through the trees. I tried to convince myself it was just the wind playing tricks on us, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. The forest seemed to come alive with sinister energy, and every rustle of leaves felt like the footsteps of unseen horrors. Suddenly, we stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight, and there, in the center, stood a lone figure. She was pale and ethereal, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end as she spoke, her voice dripping with malice. "You've trespassed into our domain," she hissed, her words sending a chill down my spine. "Now you must pay the price." Before we could react, the forest erupted into chaos. Shadows danced around us, twisting and contorting into grotesque shapes. I could hear my friends screaming as they were dragged into the darkness, their cries fading into the night. I ran as fast as my legs could carry me, my heart pounding in my chest. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being hunted by something far more sinister than I could ever imagine. Just when I thought I couldn't take another step, I stumbled upon a familiar face, one of my friends, battered and bruised but alive. Together, we vowed to find the others and escape this nightmare once and for all. But as we ventured deeper into the forest, we realized that we were not alone. The spirits that had claimed our friends now surrounded us, their eyes burning with a hunger that chilled me to the bone. With each passing moment, the forest grew darker, the shadows closing in around us like a suffocating cloak. I could feel the spirits' icy touch brushing against my skin, their whispers filling my ears with promises of eternal torment. But we refused to give in to fear. Clutching our flashlights like lifelines, we pressed onward, determined to break free from the grasp of the evil that held us captive. And then, just when we thought all hope was lost, we saw it, a faint glimmer of light cutting through the darkness. It was the way out, our ticket to freedom from this living nightmare. With renewed determination, we raced towards the light, our hearts pounding in anticipation. And as we burst through the trees into the cool night air, we knew that we had escaped the clutches of the forest and the spirits that dwelled within. But even now, as I sit safe and sound in the comfort of my home, I can't shake the feeling that those evil spirits are still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next unsuspecting victim to wander into their domain. And so, I offer this warning to anyone who dares to venture into the woods at night: beware the darkness, for it holds more than just shadows. It holds the souls of the damned, eager to claim their next victim. Trail of Terror. The sun dipped below the horizon as Sarah and Alex trekked through the rugged wilderness on their first date hike. They had met online, drawn together by their shared love for adventure and the great outdoors. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew thick with anticipation, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As darkness descended upon them, they set up their tent in a secluded clearing, the only sounds the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. They laughed and joked as they roasted marshmallows over the crackling fire, the warmth of the flames driving away the chill of the night. But as they settled into their sleeping bags, Sarah's unease returned, her senses on high alert. She tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the darkness, freezing Sarah's blood in her veins. She glanced at Alex, but he was fast asleep, oblivious to the danger lurking just beyond their tent. Heart pounding, Sarah unzipped the tent flap and peered outside, her breath catching in her throat as she saw a pair of glowing eyes staring back at her from the shadows. It was like nothing she had ever seen before, a monstrous creature with jagged claws and razor-sharp teeth, its snarls sending shivers down her spine. Terrified, Sarah scrambled back into the tent, shaking Alex awake as she whispered frantically about the monster outside. But before he could react, they heard it, the sound of heavy footsteps circling their campsite, each one closer than the last. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for her phone, praying for a signal as she dialed 911. But as she brought the phone to her ear, all she heard was static, the signal lost in the depths of the forest. Panic rising in her chest, Sarah turned to Alex, her eyes wide with fear. "We have to get out of here," she whispered, her voice trembling. But as they moved to unzip the tent, they froze in horror at the sight before them. Standing just inches away was the monster, its eyes blazing with hunger as it bared its teeth in a menacing snarl. With a scream, Sarah and Alex scrambled out of the tent, their hearts pounding in terror as they ran blindly through the darkness. But no matter how fast they ran, the monster was always one step behind them, its monstrous roars echoing through the night. They stumbled over roots and rocks, their bodies battered and bruised, but still they pressed on, driven by sheer terror and the desperate need to escape. Just when they thought they couldn't run any longer, they burst through the trees into a moonlit clearing, their lungs burning with exertion as they collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. As they lay there, trembling and exhausted, Sarah realized that they had narrowly escaped with their lives. But as she glanced back at the forest, she knew that the monster was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim to wander into its domain. And so, as they huddled together in the safety of the clearing, Sarah and Alex vowed never to return to those haunted woods again, knowing that some horrors are better left undisturbed. Bruno the Brave Dog's Journey. In the heart of the forest, Jake and his loyal companion, Bruno, ventured into the unknown. The autumn breeze whispered through the trees, painting the leaves in hues of gold and crimson. But amidst the beauty, an unsettling feeling lingered, like unseen eyes watching their every move. As twilight descended, casting shadows across the forest floor, Jake and Bruno found themselves enveloped in an eerie silence. Bruno's ears perked up, his senses on high alert, sensing something amiss in the stillness of the woods. A low growl echoed through the trees, causing Bruno to stiffen beside Jake. Fear clenched at Jake's heart as he scanned the darkness, searching for the source of the menacing sound. But all he could see were the swaying branches and the dancing shadows. Then, a mournful howl pierced the night, sending shivers down Jake's spine. Bruno whimpered softly, his tail tucked between his legs, sensing the danger lurking in the shadows. With a trembling hand, Jake reached for his phone, hoping for a signal to call for help. But just like before, there was no signal, leaving them stranded in the heart of the forest with no way to escape the encroaching darkness. But Jake refused to give up hope. Clutching his phone tightly, he glanced around the clearing, searching for any sign of a way out. And that's when he spotted it, a faint glimmer of light flickering in the distance. With Bruno by his side, Jake followed the light, every step filled with trepidation as the howling grew louder and more desperate with each passing moment. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the cabin, causing Jake to freeze in terror. "Welcome, travelers," it said, its tone dripping with malice. "I've been expecting you." A figure emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. It was the same creature that had been haunting them in the woods, its monstrous form looming over them like a specter of death. With no way to fight back, Jake and Bruno stood frozen in fear as the creature advanced towards them, its claws gleaming in the dim light. But just when all hope seemed lost, a familiar voice echoed through the cabin, cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. "Get away from them, you fiend!" A park ranger cried out, bursting through the door with a flashlight in hand. With a roar of anger, the creature retreated into the shadows, its glowing eyes fixed on Jake and Bruno. As the ranger helped them out of the cabin and into the safety of his patrol car, Jake breathed a sigh of relief, grateful to be alive and reunited with his faithful companion, Bruno. And as they drove away from the haunted woods, Jake knew that he would never forget the horrors they had faced together, but he also knew that with Bruno by his side, he could face anything that came their way.